And welcome to Tire Mini Reads, Reviews, Discusses, Monologues about everything and anything, and that's on period. Hi, guys, and welcome to my channel where, I like to talk about books and shows and everything that catches my attention. Today, I wanted to discuss two books that I read quite recently, and they are not similar books in any way or form, but I let me say I just greatly disliked the books. So I wouldn't say I disliked it. I just did not like the way the story went. I enjoyed the books. I enjoyed the premise. I liked the story. I guess, and I think this is a problem with how the authors went with writing the endings of the book. So let's say like the first two parts of the book, like the beginning and the middle, 10 over 10. But then when it comes to like that closing it out, wrapping it up, it was a big problem. So the first book that I wanted to talk about on my notes. I actually don't have the physical copy of this book, but I'll put it up. It's gonna be Daughter in Exile by Bisi Adjapon. So I've read The Teller of Secrets by Bisi a long time ago, and she's a really good author. Like she's a good writer. Like I enjoy reading her books because she talks about African stories, African growing up in like Ghana or Lagos. So I enjoy reading books from my home country. I definitely like those kinds of stories, right? Um, Daughter in Exile was a bit different for me. It was a miss, but I think it was a miss because of everything that happened to our protagonist. It just felt so unreal. I have never seen a train wreck like this person. So, the story or the synopsis in Daughter of Exile is we follow this girl who's called Olivia Akua Lola, and she's a young, maybe she's like 18 or 19 or like 20. She's pretty young, maybe 20. And she's living in, what was it? Maybe Syria, not Syria alone. She was living in like a Muslim country, Senegal, Dakar. Yeah, she was in Dakar, Senegal, and she had a job in the embassy. So, and she's originally from Ghana. So, um, she was, living her best life. She had like a good upbringing. Like her mom was a judge in Ghana, so pretty much she grew up privileged, right? She grew up privileged. She got the job, you know, graduated from school that was all paid for by her mom, and then got a good job. So this was really her first time leaving home and staying by herself. She had a roommate, so I really enjoyed that period of Lola's life where she was just living it up with her roommate. They would go to parties, she would go to work. She was, having the best type of a adolescent, like I don't want to say teenager, she was grown, like a young adult life. Like she was living it up, right? So she meets this guy. He's a military guy, and they kind of fall in love, and you know, he's like he's from the US. So he's like, I want us to, I want to marry you. So why don't you Okay, so there were a lot of red flags that I think she didn't get because she was so young, right? But there were red flags from the get, which I mean, she's young. So she got caught up with this dude, and he's like, I want you to, go to the US and wait for me. He's a travel soldier or whatever. So he's on duty pretty much. So he's stationed in different countries. So he was in Dakar for that, for whatever reason, and he got moved or shipped to a different country. So pretty much he was like, once I'm done with my tour, I will come back to the US. We will be together, blah 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 blah. And so this girl, young, innocent, doesn't know anything, decides to pack up and leave and go to the US. So she files for the passport, the green card, whatever. And she's talking to this guy, and she's like, well, where do I stay? Do I go to your parents? He's like, no, no, no. I have a friend who's going to pick you up at the airport. Just make sure here's his number, here's his info. And so she goes. I think, does she even tell her mom? I think she tells her mom. And at this point, there's obviously, something else is going on. I just don't want to really give the whole story because I want you to read it. But pretty much she goes to the US, and from the day that she arrives, she is stranded. Like, she's stranded from day one. So she gets bumped from place to place, looking for a place to live, looking for a place to stay for like continuously, not joking, like 5 years. Or yeah, thereabouts. There are so many things wrong with this book. I don't even know how to start because I just feel like I kind of had the same. I want to say I had like the same experience coming here because I came here a bit later. So I was thinking, I was like, well, what if I had come to the US and there was no one to meet me, and then I got bumped? Like I had to start looking for a place to stay. I mean, I get it, it's possible, but from there was where it kind of went downhill. Because, see, if I came to the US or I went to a foreign country based on the fact that I had a guy who wanted to marry me, blah, 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 whatever the case, or wherever you went. Well, let's be specific and say a guy said, come, I'll marry you, and you went to the foreign place. You're stranded in the airport. You don't have money. You don't have a place to stay, but maybe you have a return ticket. I mean, let's be honest. What would you do? Would you go back or would you stay? I don't know, but I think that I would go back. Sorry. Because here's the thing, right? She is from a good home. Like, her mom was a judge, like a Supreme George. Like, she was not like so far off, but she was like, yeah, I can't go back. It's gonna be shame. A lot of people come back to Ghana, and they come back with like 10 cars. They build like 20 houses. They bring money and everything for the whole family. I can't go back empty handed. So I'm gonna stick it out in the US and hustle for like 3 years. And, I'll have enough money to go back home and, kind of show off like the other people who do make it in the US do when they come back. The dumbest thing ever. Because who do you have anything to prove? I just feel like, okay. So obviously I'm really upset because I felt like this girl, she had such a bright future. She had a degree. I think she had a master's. Maybe she didn't have a master's. She had a bachelor's, at least. I know she went to university. So she could have been all sorts of things, but she decided to give up her bright future, came to the US, and for like 7 to 8 years, she was hustling like trash jobs. Like, she was like a nanny. She was a teacher. She was like working in a restaurant. It was so painful what this girl went through. And here's where I'm a little annoyed at the author is I felt like she was just like, oh, I thought of another way we could make this girl's life terrible. And then she threw it in there. There's literally nothing under the sun that did not happen to this girl. In fact, at the end of the book, I was still wondering, I was like, how is she still standing? Like, I would have been like, that's it. Like it's physically, I mean, I hope that no one has to go through all of the things that this girl went through just because she needed to stay in the US and because she had such a terrible relationship with her mom. So she really wanted to prove that she made it in life, but at what cost? That was like the underlining question is, at what cost? Like, your children suffered, you suffered, like you went through hell and back. Oh, I'm looking at my notes because I wanna see if I missed anything. It was, yeah, the book it was a lot. It was a lot. I mean, so I think books should border on reality and a little like okay, fudging here and there. But I just find it so hard to believe that one person will have so much bad luck like this girl had. Olivia or Lola or Kua, she had the worst luck ever. Like zero. She was not it at all. I mean, at the end of the book, she does get her pass her citizenship. She gets a permanent resident card or gets it approved, right? But at what cost? It was not, to me, it wasn't worth it at all. Like it just I don't know. I mean, I don't know if someone else has read the book. I don't want to go into it. I want you to go read the book, come back and comment and tell me if you feel like it was realistic that one person will go through everything that this girl went through. I don't know. So that was where I really disliked the way the story went. It started off really nice. I enjoyed when she was younger, carefree. She didn't have anything, any care in the world. But then she literally just met this guy, Armand, and that literally was like that's the end of her life. She from there on, she just like had the worst, like everything under the sun happened to this girl. She was still standing at the end of the day, thank God. But I feel like if she had gone back home, she probably would have succeeded better in life because she had everything, like, I don't know. So the book was like, it wasn't. It was a stressful read. I read it in a day, and that's because I was so fired up. I was like, oh, I just needed to know the end of the story. So, yeah, that's Daughter in Exile by Bisi Adjapon. It was a good story. I mean, it wasn't, the storytelling is fantastic. It's just so unbelievable that all of that will happen to one person. Like, I hope, because I was like, this is too much. Like, it was just too much. Like, if she had stopped at a certain, like, like, every day this girl woke up, it was a disaster. One train wreck after the other. Just literally one thing after the other. She also wrote a part where she was going to church, and I kind of thought, okay, maybe, church will kind of play a big role. She would be converted, or no. It was literally just there for, here's another disaster again. So, I don't know, like, the book just wasn't hidden. It was a good book, but it's just not, like, something I would read again because I did not agree with a lot of things that happened in the book, and I felt like she did not make the right decision to stay in the US and suffer where she had a return ticket. She could have just gone back to her country and had a better life. So let me know, your thoughts if you've read the book or if you think something else, because I might be looking at it somehow differently than someone else. But I just felt like she could have just gone back. But if she went back, we wouldn't have the story. So what do I know? Okay. So I think I got a little fired up. Okay, so the next book that I read that was a little infuriating. Oh God. It was Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. So Yellowface came out, let me see. Yellowface came out quite a while ago. It came out like 2023. Okay, not that bad, right? Came out 2023. And I did know, like, I've read The Puppy War. I never finished it. I read The Puppy War. I was kind of reading the Dragon Republic and I kind of stopped halfway. Not because it wasn't interesting. At that point, magical realism for me is like I have to like crave it. I'm not really a magical realism person, and I prefer magic systems that are like very advanced and very like, well explained. So that's kind of like one of the reasons why I did not continue on with the Puppy War trilogy. But I did know like R.F. Kuang is a good writer, so I'm familiar with her works, and so whenever Yellowface came out, I was very sure that I was going to read this. I did not read Babel because that's not, that kind of topic was not something that I guess interested me. So whenever I saw this, I was like, okay, I'll read it. And wow, oh my God. Okay, so the good points about this book, because it does have some good points, right? It's so pretty. I actually like the cover. Yellowface is, I love this cover. I love everything about it. But let's go into it. So we follow two characters, Athena and June. And let me tell you the good points about this book. So I like the book because it gave me an idea of what it means to be an author, like a published author. Like, you know, it kind of talks about the writing process. You know, it kind of talks about what you do go through once you publish, and, you know, good or bad reception, how people will then, you know, how one tweet, you know, the effect of social media in our current climate, and how, you know, literally one person can tweet something or post something, and then, you know, it just takes off. Now, takes off for good, takes off for bad, you know, that's dependent on whatever is being tweeted. But it just shows you how much of a weapon that social media is right now in our current you know, current stage. And how, you know, being a writer, you have to realize that it's not just, you know, having an idea, putting it into words. You have to sell the book to, you know, publishers. You have to work with people who will, you know, the agents. You have to network with other authors. You have to network and, you know, with your readers. Then you have to keep up a social media image. So there's a lot that goes into it, that if you don't know, you just think, oh, I just have an idea, I read a book, yay. No, there's actually a whole lot that goes behind what we see when we finally get books in our hands. There's a lot of marketing and publishing does. There's a lot of positioning, right? And that was very glaring here, because here we have a white girl called June, who basically stole Athena, who's a Chinese American girl who died. So June, the white girl, stole Athena's story or novel, basically. So it was kind of like a draft. And then, you know, June stole it. She altered it. She added some stuff into it. She edited the manuscript and kind of wrote it, and then she published it as she was the one who wrote the book. So that's like the synopsis. And then so with June, whenever she presented this story to the publishers, they were like, well, okay, you know, there was that positioning going on where they were like, you're June, you're white, and this book is and the book was based on Chinese American or Chinese immigrants that went through, they participated in World War One. So what the publishers did was they renamed her to be Juniper. What was her name? Juniper something. I forgot the name. Juniper. I need to remember. I forgot, but I'll put it up. So she goes from June Hayward to Juniper. I forgot the last name, but I'll put it up. So, you know, they kind of position her name. They change her name. She takes like headshots, but, you know, they kind of make the light a little, you know, darker, yellower, so she kind of doesn't look as pale. And, you know, she then starts to tweet about BTS. She starts to tweet about the Untamed, you know, so she starts to, you know, create or put together this fake identity of like, oh yeah, I'm super Chinese, and I'm super Asian, and oh, look at me knowing about BTS. Look at me knowing about the Untamed. So Junie is doing all of this behind the scene before the book comes out, so that, you know, it would seem like she is, I don't know, pro-Asia, whatever, you know, and that the book will be received. So it's actually surprising that, you know, this is, so what happens is she's invited to this book club. And, it's pretty surprising to the people who invited her, because when they realize that she's white, it's a Chinese book club, and they see the author come in, and they're like, this girl's white. So it was really weird. And they were all speaking Chinese, or they did speak English, but she couldn't even relate because she doesn't speak the language, So, and I think June got away with stealing the book. So whenever I got to that part, I was like, whew, I was like, okay, fine. It's not a good thing. She got away with it. Whatever. Move on. Now, you have proved yourself that you can write. Go ahead and, write something on your own merit. Like, you don't need to plagiarize someone's work if you really can actually write, right? And what does she do? She goes ahead and steals something else. So it just shows that June, I think she was just I don't want to use a very bad word, but she was every bad word that you can think. Because at that point, I lost it. So, and something the book does really well is, as you read on in the book, you realize that June and Athena, the girl who she stole from, were not really, they're morally great people. They're not good people, pretty much, right? So I'm not going to say, oh, good for the girl who died that they stole her book because she was a bad person. I'm not going to say that, because at the end of the day, why would someone steal my work? I would be really upset, like, if someone stole my work and didn't give me credit, right? So it was a problematic book. And then so one thing that R.F. Kuang did that was very brilliant was, even in the book, right, Junie is trying to write another book on, she's trying to come up with something new, right? So she's trying to write a book. So she has like the first part and the middle part of the books, but how to write the ending, Junie is kind of like, oh, I don't know, how do I write it? How do I close it out? And I think that scenario is what happened to this book in real life, pretty much, because by the time we get to the last act of the book, R.F. Kuang is struggling to finish the book. And the way she concludes on this book is just 0 stars. Like, I finished the book and I was like, wow, why did I do this to myself? Like, why did I read this book? Oh my God, was it bad? And I get the point that she's trying to make. She actually, not just the point, she did make a lot of points with this book. Meaning that, and I'm not saying this happens, but it can happen that someone can steal your work and someone can successfully publish your work. I guess it happens. And there's so many things that she describes. Like, someone can be an unknown author and just one day social media just gets wind of something and boom, you are an overnight success. So there's a lot of things that she explores and she describes brilliantly in this book, right? Take whatever you will take whatever story, whatever lesson you think she's saying. I mentioned at least 2 or 3. Right. And there's also, how effective or, how damaging social media can be. Not even as an author, just even as someone that's in the public light, right? Social media has such grave, impact on people's livelihoods, as you can see again in this book. And then there's also the other part where not everything is about social media. You can actually live your life without social media. You can actually make a living, even if you're an author, you can actually make it without being so focused on what people on social media are saying. So anyway, I'm like going off tangent, but what I'm saying is there's a lot of themes that she put out in this book that brilliant all the way. It's thought-provoking. I'm like, yeah, wow, I didn't even think of it this way, but wow, that makes sense. So if you are someone that's trying to break out, you're trying to be an author, you're trying to be a writer, you're trying to break out into publishing scene, maybe read this book. I mean, I thought it was helpful. It had a lot of helpful ideas so that you don't walk into that kind of and space or environment blind. Like there's a lot of things that actually happens behind the scene before we get the books. So yeah, if you have aspirations to be a writer, I guess read the book. But what I think is she did, R.F. Kuang did not stick the landing with this one. I violently disliked the way the book ended. Right, I felt like June got no repercussions. She got no. There was literally no closure. I mean, I get what happens to her, but R.F. Kuang did not give us the exact way that Junie was dealt with, and I did not. It didn't sit right with me. So that was just a big no for me. So literally, R.F. Kuang had it in the first, the beginning of the book, the middle of the book, but you see that ending, she did not stick it at all, and I think that's why this book is greatly disliked by a lot of people. It has a lot of people reviewed. A lot of people had thoughts about the book, and it's not. I think on Goodreads it's like 3.5 or 3.7. I'll put the exact number up. So it's not really even high up, and I think it's also because of the things that I'm saying is there was just no closure, which didn't make sense. I felt like at the very least, R.F. Kuang should have closed the loop, on the story and given us at least some type of closure based on the kind of story that she was writing. Because the implication just means that someone can just steal someone's work, and the only thing that happens is they just fade into obscurity. Okay, well, so okay, so obviously I'm a little worked up because I just did not like the way the book ended. Junie was a very unpleasant character to read. Athena, it was like a secondhand feeling because we didn't really get any of her point of view. We just got her point of view from other people's lenses. So it was more like a secondhand feeling of, wow, okay, this girl is not really a nice person. Like, she's not a girl's girl, So, yeah, but the two of them were really terrible people. So, well, let me just say two of them. Athena, we hear from other people, but we don't hear from Athena. So, I'm not so sure. But again, so yeah, let me know if you've read Yellowface and let me know what you thought about it. I mean, like I said, it's just I liked what was discussed. I liked the dialogue. I liked the implications of the book. I just did not like the ending, and I did not like the characters. I'm a really character driven person, so when I read books where the characters are morally gray, it's like I already know that I'm not gonna like the book, and I knew that going into the book. Like I was aware that this was a problematic topic already from the get because that's how the book. I mean, that was the synopsis of the book, so I'm not surprised. And this is definitely a book I will not be reading again because, like I said, just too problematic for me. Man, maybe she had stuck the ending, I would have been like, okay, I'll give it another go. But I will not be reading it again. It's not a bad book in any way, but just not my cup of tea. So, yeah, let me know if you've read Yellowface or if you have read Daughter in Exile. And if you have the same, like, what were your thoughts when you read those books? Like, were you, like, aggravated or heated up or what was it? Because I feel like those are the ways I would describe my feelings after reading these two books is I'm very aggravated and I felt like a lack of closure, which I don't like when I read books is I want there to be closure. Maybe that's why I really like fantasy because with fantasy, there's closure, the good guys win, the bad guys don't win. I mean, that's why fantasy is so beautiful because at the end of the day, good always trumps evil. So, anyways, let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. Let me know if you've read the books, if you like them. And yeah, thank you for hanging out with me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.